pleased to welcome Neil McCallum from AARP this morning. Neil's been volunteering with Triad for quite a while, and I really rely on him to bring chaos to my organizational manner when we're producing the conference this fall. And so Neil's real strength in this effort anyway is driver safety. Neil, let me turn it over to you. Take it away.
Mike, do you want to do the poll so that we know who our audience is?
Neil wants to know, how old are you, or how experienced are you? Please check real quickly which age group you're in so that he can kind of target his programming this morning. Very experienced is in the lead.
Good, I'm talking to the right people then.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Neil, is that good enough for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll end the poll then.
Okay. Good. It looks like we have the right audience for our program. And thank you, Mike, for arranging this and putting this package together. I'd like to present to you today a little bit of a refresher on what you learned in driver's ed. As the poll indicated, many of you are very experienced, which is good. But in that light, a lot of things have happened with regard to your body, your vehicle, and the roads, and also things to think about when maybe you shouldn't be driving. And so that's what we would like to talk about today. As Mike indicated, I am the state coordinator for AARP. I've been in this role for 4 years. As a volunteer, when the position was presented to me 5 years ago, I said, my gosh, that seems like a lot of work. Well, unbeknownst to me, the man that was the state coordinator stepped back and I volunteered. And so I can assure you, it is a fair amount of work, but it's been good. And it's really great today to be back in a presentation mode, because for the last 16 months, we've been shut down.
Neil, can I interrupt a second? Can you switch it to presentation mode? I'm seeing 2 slides here right now.
Okay. Oops.
Oops.
All right, let me share again.
There we go. That's good.
All right, this can work. Anyway, it's great to be back into a teaching role as we have been shut down, and we look forward to giving you a few tips on what the future might bring. And I'm trying to advance there we go. We normally start our meetings in our driver safety program with a safety moment. And it just so happens that today, or this week, is National Rail Safety Week. And so I thought I'd point out a few facts that makes you stop and think about what it is in the rail world. Every 3 hours in the United States, a person or a vehicle is hit by a train. That's a significant factor. and more than 2,100 people are killed or injured around train tracks. And then more than 50% of accidents occur at crossings equipped with lights and or gates. Many in Wisconsin, we have a lot of railroads. And so it's really important that we focus on railway safety. As part of our course, we have state-specific information, and that's shown below. And it's illegal to drive around a crossing gate, even if there is no train. And I'd like to call your attention to the last one. It is illegal to park on a railroad track. So something to keep in mind as you proceed out. And now let's get into the main coursework. We're all getting older, and the United States in general, the percentage of aging population is increasing significantly. That's one of AARP's focus points, is providing support to our aging community. And the last bullet over there, age 65 plus driving population will increase by 23% in the coming years. And that's a significant value. And so it is very important that we address those driving needs of our aging population. When we and our experience driving started out, many of us have been driving over 50 some odd years, sometimes even 60. And so airbags weren't even thought about in vehicles. And so now we have a much safer vehicle, other than your mother's arm coming across your chest as she comes to a quick stop. And then the DOT wasn't even formulated until the mid 60s. And so that's something to be cognizant of, as they are the governing body of our roadways. What are the challenges for older drivers? Failure to yield, merging, intersections, high-speed roadways, driving at dusk and dawn, and then, of course, driver distraction. Over the last, and Mike and I were talking about this prior to the meeting, over the last 19 months or so, we have noticed a significant degradation in people's driving manners. And there's a couple of things that we can associate that to. One is that there's not as many people out on the road, and then as such, people tend to speed more. And with speed comes issues. There's also the experience factor. As we've not been driving as much due to the fact that we're staying home, our experience factor has decreased, and we're not as confident on the road as we once were. So this is something that we need to be very concerned about as we get back onto the road, to rebuild our confidence and to remain safe on the road. On the right-hand side, you see some of the Wisconsin statistics from last year. And as was shown in the previous slide, 21% of the population will be over 65 in the year 2030. Okay, there we go. Reiterating the top challenges for older drivers: merging, and that has a lot to do with our depth perception, intersections, driving at dusk and dawn, our eyes' ability to adjust to low and highlights, slows as we age. And so that's what makes driving at dusk and dawn so difficult. And then also, of course, driver distraction. There's a lot more items in a vehicle that you have to attend to that actually make the vehicle much more safer, but it is something that is a concern when you have to mentally adjust to all the bells and whistles going off. And so that's why AARP has really focused on their safe driving program. A lot has changed. We basically break the class down into these 4 segments. What has changed? Our bodies have changed. We don't have the same body at our present age than we did at age 16. We have a lot more aches and pains than we used to have. Our vehicles have changed significantly from the standpoint of there's a lot more electronics and there's a lot more in-vehicle distractions that we need to compensate for and focus on. Our roadways certainly have changed. The roundabout is our current safety program, and they do make the roads much more safe at intersections, but they can be also confusing. And then certainly our traffic laws have changed as we've gone over the years, and speed limits have increased and decreased, and we just have to be cognizant of all the change that is going on. So what has changed? Our bodies, as I mentioned, many of us are taking a lot more medications than we used to. And those medications can impact the way we drive. What I really stress within the course is the fact that when the physician or the pharmacist gives you that several sheets of white paper, that you read down through that and make sure that you understand what effect that medication has on your body's ability to operate machinery. And of course, a vehicle is a significant piece of machinery. The other thing that we recommend is that you carry a listing of all of your medications with you at all times. That way, if you're ever in an accident, there is a ready source of information that an emergency room or a physician or a caregiver can be aware of, so that something isn't prescribed to you that might affect another medication. And it's just something that's very handy to keep in your wallet or your purse, just so. And even the iPhone has an app that you can list your medications, and emergency responders.
Right.
Emergency responders have the ability to get into your iPhone to see the medications you're on. Now, certainly our vehicles have changed. We have airbags now, and something to keep in mind that 10 inches is the recommended distance between your chest and the steering wheel. That 10 inches allows the airbag to inflate properly so that it will break your fall. And anything that is within that 10 inches is a concern. And it causes me a lot of concern as I look at cars going down the road with somebody that has a dog or an animal sitting on their lap while they're driving. Number one, it's a distraction. And number two, if that airbag goes off, Fido is toast. Not a pretty scene. Our roads have changed significantly as well, from the standpoint of we see a lot more roundabouts. If you're in the Madison area, you've seen a lot of them, and it's a much safer way of navigating an intersection, as in a four-way stop, a conventional intersection, there's 32 potential conflict points, and those conflict points are significant as they could be a head-on or a T-bone. And so with a roundabout, those conflict points are reduced to 8, and they are glancing blows versus a T-bone or a head-on. And so they are much safer from the standpoint of accidents. However, admittedly, they are confusing, and you have to always look to your left and make sure that you yield to the vehicles within the roundabout. Very important safety feature. And by the way, the Wisconsin DOT does point out or have a excellent video that's online on how to navigate roundabouts, and we show that after the class when we are in our in-person sessions. State laws have changed. One thing, as I'll take you back to your driver's ed, many of us were taught from the standpoint of following distance that you stay back 1 car distance for every 10 miles per hour. So if you're going 50 miles an hour, you stay back 5 car lengths. Well, that was very hard to judge, as car lengths vary and people's perception of what a car length is very different. And so that's been standardized to the 4-second rule. And what we like to recommend is that when you are coming up to a bridge or some sort of a landmark, look at the car in front of you, and when that car passes that landmark, start counting 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and then you should pass that landmark. That allows you to judge the distance that you are following somebody. Now, I get the argument all the time that it is very difficult on the belt line to maintain that 4-second separation, and I will agree. But on the interstate, I've tested it many, many times where you're not in an urban area, and it's very easy to maintain that 4-second rule. And it just allows you to have enough time to adjust should something happen in front of you. And it's try it out. It's interesting and it works. So it's a good exercise that you might want to try when you're on the interstate. If you're on the belt line, my recommendation is you allow as much space between you and the car in front of you as you can, preferably 4 seconds, but always make sure that you have a place to go. Don't get yourself boxed in where you do not have any maneuvering room. So anyway, we'll have some time for questions in a few minutes, and we'll see as I go through this. Okay, strategies for coping with change. Know your bodies. Know when you're not fit to drive, and then inspect your vehicle. Many of you might remember the old adage, you can trust your car to the man that wears the star. Well, that's when we had service stations. And that's when you pulled in and they said, they came up to your car in their nice clean outfit and said, may I fill her up and may I inspect underneath the hood and check your fluids? Well, who is that person now that is inspecting your car and checking your fluids? Well, it's you. And the days of service stations are gone, unfortunately. And so it's up to you to check your vehicle. We recommend that you do a 360-degree walk around whenever you can to make sure that your vehicle is fit to drive. That granted, many vehicles now have temperature or tire pressure sensors, but if you can notice that a tire is low during that 360-degree walk around, it's a good thing. And then periodically check your fluid levels. Granted, many of you take your cars in for service. However, periodically, it doesn't hurt to raise the hood and check the fluids just to make sure that they're at the right level. We're coming into winter, and the window de-icing fluid many times gets used and is low. And so we want to make sure that those tanks are topped off so that you have the ability to navigate in inclement conditions. Another recommendation is to, as you pull out, if you park in the same spot every day, to look where your car had been parked. Is there a puddle under it? If there's a purplish color, it might be hydraulic fluid. A dark gray is, of course, oil. And if it's green, that means your coolant is low. And so you need to make sure that when you pull out, you're looking and you're observing what is going on with your car. And then, of course, plan your route. It's important that you plan your route so that you know which way you're going. And granted, GPS are great. However, you want to make sure your GPS is updated regularly, because I had one instance where I was up at Green Bay and my GPS told me to turn right when after they had redone the intersection, and the right-hand turn was a quarter mile behind me. So it's important to make sure your GPS is up to date and you generally know which way to go. And then deer, we always have a lot of questions about deer, and the recommendation is don't swerve, hit the deer. And if you see one deer, likely there's two. So granted, it's hard to think about hitting a deer. However, Statistically, it is much safer if you hit the deer than to swerve and avoid the deer and go off the road and flip. And then sharing the road, we have a lot more bicycles on the road right now, and it's very important that we are cognizant of them. Check your rear view mirrors frequently. They can sneak up on you. And as a cyclist myself, I am also very careful, especially in the city, that I don't get a car turning right in front of me. As a cyclist going through an intersection straight has the right of way over a right-hand turning car. And then sharing the road also means sharing it with big trucks. There are areas of big trucks that they cannot see via their mirrors. And so it's important that you don't sit within the no zone, we'll refer to it, because they can't see you and they could make a turn that will cause you difficulty. Vehicle breakdowns, granted, they do happen. The recommendation is that you stay in your vehicle. We've had too many instances where we've heard on the interstate that a person was killed because they got out of their car. That 2,000 to 3,000 pound cocoon is a wonderful safety feature. And if you break down at night, make sure you have your cell phone, but also if you can, turn on the dome lights within your car to make you more visible. Just a couple of things to think about as you start out. AARP has a number of programs that help you prepare for this change that we are going through. AARP has been in the driver safety business for over 40 years. And it's so unfortunate that the last year and a half, we've been shut down from our in-person classes, as that is the most popular way of getting our word out. And it's a great experience. At this point, I'm going to stop from the standpoint of and ask for any questions that you might have with regard to the safe driving program, or what recommendations there are for driving safely.
Neil, I'll jump in. When did this 4-second thing turn up? See people tailgating all the time, but I try to count out those car lengths, but 4 seconds, that's ingenious. So I can always count that out. When did that become the recommendation?
It has come to pass, I think, within the last 10 years. I have been with the program for 5 years, and it was in the initial coursework that I was taught, but it really is a great way of judging distance and allowing yourself way to maneuver.
Feel free to unmute yourselves, folks. Jump right in. Isabel here. Isabel Hubbard's with me. Neil, go ahead, Isabel.
Neil, I have a question. You mentioned the position of your hands on the steering wheel, so that when the airbag comes out, are you saying it's a 10-4 like we used to be told?
Isabel, that's a great question, and I normally bring that up during the class. But yes, as you recall from driver's ed, the position on the steering wheel was 10-2. Okay. However, now we're recommending 3-9 because the airbag inflates and we don't want it to take your hands off the steering wheel. So 3-9 is the correct position.
Thank you very much, Neil. I appreciate that.
Thanks for bringing that up. we do cover that in the class, but we also want to make sure that you have the 10 inches between you and your chest. It concerns me also when you see somebody in a car that hasn't properly adjusted the seat and or gotten adaptive devices, and they're looking out through the steering wheel. That's a concern too. Any other questions?
So in one class I was attending, it was talking about trying to avoid left-hand turns and the danger of left-hand turns.
Yes, in an urban environment, and what we also brought up in the first couple of slides is a left-hand turn is difficult, and one of the safety concerns that plague older drivers. A lot of that is due to judging distance and speed. In an urban environment, what we try and recommend is that instead of making a left-hand turn, you make 4 right-hand turns. And so you would go beyond the road that you want to turn on, turn right and go over a block, and turn right and go over a block, and then turn right, and then you're on the on the road that you want to be on. That's a very good, safe way of navigating and avoiding the left-hand turns. I'll also bring out that industry acknowledges that, and I've heard that FedEx and UPS and even the Postal Service encourages their routes to avoid left-hand turns. And they design their routes to maximize the number of right-hand turns that they make.
Neil, have you traveled down Odana Road since they remarked that, you know, to basically 3 lanes, 1 on each side, and then a turn lane in the middle?
Yes. Yep.
You know, that center lane, you know, during rush hour, it's almost impossible to make a left turn. I mean, traffic is moving along fairly rapidly and almost bumper to bumper. I mean, making a left turn almost isn't an option there. Yet, you know, I try to do it. I gotta soften up a little bit here.
Well, what you can do is go on beyond and then make a couple of right-hand turns, or go to a signal so that you can then get on to Odana going in the opposite direction and come back. It takes a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra gas, but if you're much safer, that's what we're trying to do.
Good, yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
I want to put in a plug for the AARP online class. There is a, maybe you could mention something about that.
You've seen my slide deck. That's where I'm going, Jane. Thank you. The Smart Driver Refresher course is what we have. That's primarily what I've talked about in the earlier portion of the presentation. We have also Smart Driver Tech, which the cars are changing nowadays, and there's so many technical aspects that make us safer on the road that we offer a course to teach primarily somebody that's interested in buying a new car what the new technology is. And so basically you come away with a shopping list that you can walk into a dealership and say, I would like a vehicle that does this, this, and this. And so That's been a very popular course. As I'll mention, it's online. CarFit is something probably similar to what you're trying to set up with Toyota, is where they talk about how to fit your car to yourself. And CarFit, we work with the Occupational Therapist Association, and they have a occupational therapist at each event. And if you have a disability or a concern, the occupational therapist can work with you to make sure that your car fits you. What we found is if you're not comfortable in your car, you're not confident in your car, and it's confidence is needed to drive your car properly and safely. So we want the car to fit you. And a lot of dealerships, admittedly, once the sale is made, they're not all that interested in helping you necessarily fit your car and educating you on all the safety features. So it's both CarFit and Smart Driver Tech help you do that. And then let's face it, at some point in time, it may be that we shouldn't be on the road. And so our We Need to Talk program is how you deal with a situation where a person, a loved one, may not or should not be on the road, and what alternatives are there, and how do you have that very difficult conversation. Something to think about. So AARP, this is just some of the various aspects of our program. And one thing that I'd also like to mention is when you consider taking the online or the in-person driver safety course, some insurance companies do offer a discount. Some states that discount is mandated. In Wisconsin, it is not, but it depends on your insurance company. But being able to drive safely is good regardless of the insurance discount. All of us are volunteers within the program. We have a small paid staff in Washington, D.C. that puts together all of our and coordinate all of the materials and coordinates our efforts. But it 95 or all the safe driver class is offered in all 50 states. In Wisconsin, it's a 4-hour class. In some states, it's an 8-hour class. And some states like New York, actually, the state monitors it as they mandate a significant insurance discount. Our safe driver course is offered online and in person after the 1st of January. Again, it's been awful to be shut down because we have so much great information to do. And it's important to stress here that our safe driver course is not safe driving according to Neil McCallum. This is a nationally recognized course based and prepared by experts, and it is also monitored by many states to make sure that the information being given is correct. As of the 1st of January, we're going to be taking or refreshing our coursework. So Jane, what you took online, maybe I don't know when it was, but it would be worth checking out our new course. The curriculum and the information is basically the same. However, the videos have been refreshed, and we're going to it will have a very new look. And so we're very, very excited. And the whole purpose of this, of course, is to increase your confidence in your driving abilities. This is just more about the Smart Driver course. We offer it also in Spanish and Chinese. And the CarFit program, it's an in-vehicle program whereby you are sit in your car and we make sure that you have the 10 inches of space between your chest and the steering wheel, and yet you can also reach the pedals correctly, and your mirrors are adjusted properly so that you can see around. So many times our mirrors are not properly adjusted, and so you do lose that ability to see around your car. And it's so very important that your mirrors are properly adjusted. And then the We Need to Talk, this is also available online. It's important as we age to know what resources we have available to us. So when we do need to give up the car, we can not adjust our lifestyle based on that vehicle. The We Need to Talk program is excellent from the standpoint of it points out resources that we have in the community to assist you in transitioning from the car to either public transportation, Uber or Lyft, or the ride sharing services. And it's really quite a comprehensive class. Unfortunately, in Wisconsin, we have a lot of rural areas, and as such, a lot of the transportation services like buses aren't available to that population. But there are alternatives, and we try and stress what those alternatives are. I'll mention the ADRC. If there is any of you that have concerns about mobility issues, ADRC, the Accessibility Disabilities Resources Center, ADRC, is available during the week, and it's an easy phone call. Every county in Wisconsin has an ADRC, and they have excellent access to resources to help you with any mobility issues. Aging Disability Resource Center. That's it. I'm sorry, I was struggling with that.
We usually have a few ADRC people on the call with us, Neil. I figured they'd get to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No, ADRC and AARP Driver Safety work very closely together to present our program at their facilities, and they're a great resource, and we appreciate it. The Smart Driver course tech class is available online, and it's just interesting to take 90 minutes of your day and find out what technologies are being put into our vehicles right now. AARP also has quick learning videos, and those are 2 to 3 minute videos on various aspects of your vehicle. Lane departure warning systems is one shown here, and emergency crash response systems. They're very well done videos, and I would recommend that you view them. Unfortunately, Smart Driver course, as I indicated, is not available right now. It will go start in January 1st, and we'll be setting up those classes. However, as Jane pointed out, it is available online. And if you go to www.aarpdriversafety.org and type in the promo code driving skills, you get a significant discount, and I believe it brings it down to about $15. So it's well worth taking the time to complete the course. It normally, the 4-hour course in person, the online course takes about 5 hours to complete, but you don't have to do it in one sitting. You can pick it up, get up, do something else, and then come back and pick it up where you left off. So something to consider. It's well worth the time, especially considering that we don't have the in-person courses right now.
Once you get going, Neil, will these be, I mean, if you're having in-person classes, will there be opportunities where people could say, oh, hey, why don't you come out in the car here and show me how to do that parallel parking again?
Well, we don't talk about parallel parking, but we would be more than happy to come out and work with you on making sure your car is fits you and making any adjustments to that vehicle. There's all sorts of liability about actual in-vehicle issues.
I suppose.
But then the Smart Driver course is available online, and CarFit, unfortunately, until we can meet one-on-one, we have tried to do some CarFit events remotely. It's not as great as if it were in person. So think about that again. And then, of course, we need to talk. That's coming up as well, and that's offered online. And so you might be interested in looking at that. And then, of course, we're always looking for volunteers, as with any volunteer organization. We can't we always need volunteers, and there's so many ways that you can assist our program. And one way to do that is to go to AARP Volunteer Now, fill out an application, and we'll work with you to get you up and running as a instructor, course administrator, district coordinator, state coordinator, lots of things, lots of available jobs. And then, of course, if you have a facility, we would love to have you host a Smart Driver course after the 1st of January. So if you are available, or if you have access to a facility, we do a lot of programs at senior centers, ADRCs, and a number of organizations that we always are looking for hosts to allow us to present. And I would like to, of course, thank you for listening to me for about the last hour. And we really want to see you in an in-person class very shortly.
I'm wondering about, you said that the liability thing is a problem. There are professionals, giving driving lessons. Have you ever heard of older adults going to driving school and say, hey, I need a couple of lessons here?
Absolutely. And the ADRC would be able to show you the resources, or provide you with the resources of those schools. There are also, through the occupational therapy department at major hospitals around the state, they also have the ability to test your driving ability to make sure that you are fit to be on the road. And the ADRC can also point you in the direction of those programs. I know Meritor has a very good driver program within their occupational therapy session at in Madison. Any other questions?
Neil, this is Richard Huffman with RSVP. Great program. Sorry I couldn't join you earlier. I just wanted to add for everyone's information that, you know, RSVP has a transportation program. And for people who are at the point in their driving career that they feel that they can't drive anymore, RSVP offers a great driver escort service. You can contact your local senior center and ask about the driver escort program with RSVP, which also includes a Vets Helping Vets driver services program within Dane County for veterans who have health issues, personal appointments, etc. So I wanted to let people know that RSVP is fully aware of what AARP can do for you as a helping to become a safer driver. And if you need those services, great, get a hold of RSVP.
Thank you, Richard. In Madison and in Dane County in general, we are blessed with many resources that are available should you decide that you don't want to drive anymore. And RSVP is one of those, and we're very receptive to that. It's a great program, and thank you for bringing that up.
I have a suggestion to you. I know through Meritor, if you are going to have an occupational therapist suggest that you go to a driving class, it has to be referred through the doctor that you're dealing with. Also, I have another comment that you probably heard before. In suggesting to somebody who's older who should perhaps not continuing driving, I think the best thing to do is talk to your person's doctor and say, you as a physician have more responsibility to say to that particular patient, may I suggest to you that you seriously consider stop driving, or tell them to stop driving. That happened to my husband when he was undergoing some cancer treatment, and coming from me, it wouldn't have done any good, but coming from his doctor, it made all the impression in the world, and he had to get rid of a car. So I think AARP would be neglectful if they didn't incorporate that perhaps message in some of your communications with your audience, that suggest that the person contact a doctor and have the doctor talk to the person who should not be driving. Thank you.
That's a good point, Irene. And in any discussion of driving and the ability to drive, a planned approach is so very important. Part of that planned approach is who is the best person to have the discussion. In some cases, it might be a son or a daughter, but in other cases, yes, a physician. I have also heard, though, that sometimes physicians are reluctant to make that determination, again, maybe for the liability reasons, I don't know, but knowing the right people to talk to the individual is so very important. And physicians are one aspect, loved ones, family members, maybe a fishing buddy. Hey, I've driven with you, I don't want to drive with you anymore. That has a big effect too. Any other questions?
Well, if there aren't any others, then let me just chime in here for a second. I think it was 13 months ago, we had Officer Erik Lee from the Madison Police Department give driver safety class. And that recording is available in our Triads of Dane County YouTube channel. There's a little bit of overlap with what Neil has said, but Officer Lee's a traffic patrolman, you know, and very experienced. And so, you know, he has a unique perspective on it as well as Neil does as an instructor. So if you're wanting a little more information on this, check out our YouTube channel for navigating our roads with Erik Lee. Anyone else? All righty, well then, let me shut her down. Thanks so much, Neil. Really appreciate your expertise and your time here helping us out today. Terrific presentation.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and it's great to be back.
And thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate your support. Y'all take care and see you next month. Oh yeah, don't forget, Triad Conference is in October. Please visit the rsvpdane.org website and look for Triad. You'll see conference information there.
Thank you, Neil. Excellent presentation.
Appreciate it, Harold.